This happened a few years ago when I took my grandmother back to the town where she was born. It had been a long time since she had returned, ever since my father passed away. In fact, he was the one who took care of her, and after he was gone, my siblings and I brought her to live with us. She never showed any intention of going back, never spoke about the town or the people she had left behind. But that day was different. We got word that Don Arturo, an old friend of hers, had passed away, and without a moment's hesitation, she decided she had to be at his wake. The call came on a Thursday at 4 in the afternoon, and by 4:30, she and I were already on our way to the town. The journey was neither short nor easy. My grandmother's hometown was in a mountainous area, and the roads were not only dangerous due to their curves and narrow paths, but also because of the robberies that, according to rumors, happened in the loneliest stretches. People spoke of men who would come down from small houses, perched high on the hills to take advantage of stranded travelers. That's why those familiar with the route always traveled during the day and avoided unnecessary stops. The trip went smoothly until, on a particularly sharp curve, I suddenly felt the car become unstable. The steering wheel jerked from side to side, and I had to slow down until we came to a complete stop. I got out to check, feeling a tightness in my chest that only grew stronger when I saw what had happened. One of the tires was completely flat. The sun was beginning to set, and on that road, being stranded meant one thing: danger. But when I looked at my grandmother, expecting a reaction, I saw that instead of saying something or even looking at me, she simply clasped her hands together and started praying. It annoyed me. I was there, trying to figure out a solution, and she was just praying. I bent down to examine the damage, trying to find a way to change the tire without the damn jack I hadn't brought. That's when I heard the sound of an engine approaching very slowly. It was subtle, but unmistakable. I stood up and turned toward the road just in time to see a huge truck emerge from the curve. It stopped right in the middle of the road. I couldn't see how many people were inside. The windows were completely tinted. Whoever they were, they just stayed there, motionless, watching us. They stayed like that for a full minute, an eternity. My grandmother kept praying. I didn't know what to do. My heart was pounding, and though I tried not to think about it, I was sure they were about to get out of the truck. I had no idea who they were, but the way they were watching us, the way they had stopped in the middle of the curve without a care in the world, told me nothing good was about to happen. Then, without warning, they turned around and disappeared the way they had come. I stood frozen. I looked at my grandmother, hoping for an explanation, a reaction, but she just kept praying, eyes fixed downward. I didn't say anything. I just wanted another car to pass, a patrol, anyone who could help us. But the road was empty. The sun disappeared. The cold of the mountain became more and more intense. "Grandma, if anything happens, if they come back, you hide in the bushes," I whispered, almost feeling ridiculous for saying it. She didn't respond. She murmured something I couldn't understand and kept praying. Then, another car appeared from the curve. It was small, completely opposite to the truck from minutes before. It stopped right behind us, and after a few seconds, a very tall man stepped out of the driver's seat. He walked toward us calmly. "Do you need help?" he asked in a steady voice. I nodded, though I wasn't entirely sure if I should trust him. However, when he opened the trunk of his car and pulled out some tools, I felt an immediate sense of relief. He was a tire repairman. I don't know what you call it in your country, but he worked at a tire shop, fixing and replacing tires for a living. Exactly the person we needed at that moment. He didn't say anything else. He knelt beside the damaged tire and started working quickly, as if nothing about the situation was strange. I could barely believe it. But when I looked at my grandmother, I saw her watching him closely, the kind of look someone gives when they recognize an old acquaintance. Then, as if he had felt her gaze, the man looked up at her too. He was silent for a moment before smiling in disbelief. "It can't be," he said. "You're the mother of—" My grandmother nodded. He sighed and wiped his hands. "He told us he had been a friend of my father's many years ago. I was in a neighboring town earlier with a friend. But, I don't know, I just felt like I should come back early today. That's the only reason I passed by here at this hour," he said. My grandmother didn't say anything else. He finished securing the tire and told us to keep driving without stopping. He followed behind us all the way to the town, making sure we didn't end up stranded again. When we finally parked, my grandmother kissed the image of Saint Christopher that she had been holding the entire time. The saint of travelers, the saint of those behind the wheel. Since that day, I always carry an image of Saint Christopher when I drive, along with one of my grandmother's prayers. Because even though this may not seem like a paranormal story to most people, I know that something greater than us was watching over us that evening.